When the holidays start to feel a bit repetitive, reach for a Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry and put your twist on tradition. A bold cranberry and winter spice flavor fusion, Sprite Winter Spiced Cranberry is a refreshing way to shake things up this sipping season. And only for a limited time. Sprite, obey your thirst.
Every Who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton. But where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one Who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
Welcome to the Dr. Raj podcast with Dr. Raj Dasgupta, a show all about educating patients, students, and aspiring doctors about better patient care. Dr. Raj is a quadruple board-certified physician and associate professor at the University of Southern California. He was a co-host of the TNT series Chasing the Cure with Ann Curry, as well as a regular on the TV show The Doctors. And now, here's our show.
Hi, and welcome to the Dr. Raj podcast. And what is this a podcast of? It's a podcast of happiness and wellness, amazing people, touching stories, and yes, there is medical knowledge. And today, I'm really excited about talking about this. This is not a topic that commonly occurs in conversations, but very important in society. I want to talk about the mental health of mom and dad after they deliver their precious little one. Of course, I'm a dad of 3, and I'm talking about terminologies that we use, but sometimes we don't know how to define, such as baby blues, postpartum depression, just to name a few. So I needed an expert, and I got one, an awesome expert. So we have Dr. Shoshana Bennett. And you know the rules, everyone. Before I introduce her, I got to read the bio. Internationally recognized as a leading maternal mental health expert, clinical psychologist, Dr. Shoshana Bennett has inspired and transformed countless lives worldwide through her radio shows, books, lectures, interactive tele-classes, consultations, and videos. Affectionately known as Dr. Shosh. I just like saying that, by the way. She educates, engages, and empowers her audience while discussing serious and often uncomfortable topics using humor, the latest research, solution-based protocols, and firsthand knowledge she gleaned after experiencing life-threatening postpartum depression. She emerged from this personal nightmare to become a leading national advocate and pioneer in parental mental health, establishing Postpartum Assistance for mothers, which offers education and emotional support for mothers experiencing PPD and related disorders. Dr. Shosh also helped develop the official training curriculum for professionals and served as president of Postpartum Support International. Dr. Shosh is an executive producer of the award-winning documentary Dark Side of the Full Moon. She is the author of Postpartum Depression for Dummies, Pregnant on Prozac, love that title, Children of the Depressed, and is co-author of Beyond the Blues, Understanding and Treating Prenatal and Postpartum Depression and Anxiety. Dr. Shosh is the creator of the first PPD mobile phone app. She co-founded the Parental Action Institute to train community leaders and parent advocates. Dr. Shosh has traveled extensively throughout the U.S. and internationally as a guest lecturer and keynote speaker, training medical and healthcare professionals. She is well known for her popular drshosh.com radio show and has appeared as a guest on countless TV and radio shows, including 2020, Ricky Lake, and The Doctors, which is one of my personal favorites. I did a lot of appearances on The Doctors too, so we have a lot of overlap. All aspects of media consult, interview, and quote her regular, including CNN, The Wall Street Journal, WebMD, NPR, Psychology Today, USA Today, Parenting, The Huffington Post, and Cosmopolitan. She has received numerous awards acknowledging and honoring her outstanding contributions and work as a mental health care advocate. Early in her career, she served as a special education teacher, working with autistic and other learning challenged children. She later taught early childhood education, psychology, and special education for several California colleges and earned 3 teaching credentials, 2 master's degrees, a PhD, and her license as a clinical psychologist. Today, she has helped more than 20,000 women worldwide through individual consultations, support groups, group workshops, and seminars. Parental mental health is her life's mission. She provides hope with compassion, personal experience, and the application of sound knowledge and research. Dr. Shosh helps her clients and colleagues understand that these disorders are completely treatable. With proper help, parents can emerge from these crises and these illnesses in charge of their life, making the best possible decisions for themselves and their families, and happier than ever before. And with that being said, Dr. Shosh, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Raj. Now I have to be really good. Huh? People are expecting I better know what I'm talking about today.
This is impressive. No, this is impressive. I got to tell you, I got a little fatigued with how many great things you've done. I had to take a couple of deep breaths, a little diaphragmatic breathing, but I can't believe you accomplished all these things.
As you read, I was a special education teacher. I never thought I would be doing what I'm doing now and have been for now, almost 37 years. And my passion is just as strong now as it was then. But I launched into this career based on personal experience.
Hey, let's go way back in the time machine and say,
Sure.
Was this your dream job? What was your major in college? And, did it kind of lead into this, or were you kind of initially going a different way?
I was initially going a very different way. Yes, I majored in psychology.
Okay.
Undergrad, and really had in mind to work somewhere in the field of special education. Starting when I was 12 years old, I worked at community, various places. There were colleges with programs, there were community centers with programs. I would go from place to place, offering to help those students, those participants, those kids who were either slower or had some kind of learning challenge. I was good at it and I really loved it. And so that's honestly where I thought I would end up.
Now, have you worked, I'm sure the answer is yes, with a lot of autistic kids?
Yes.
Autistic kids, they just touch my heart. And, it's just amazing. And in fact, I wasn't going to go this route because it's not the me show, it's the you show, that my middle child, Aiden, he has autism. So that's one thing that was really nice to hear about that, and you're passionate about it. So there's not a lot of good teachers like you out there. So I think we lost someone because you changed the ship a little bit,
Well, it's interesting, Dr. Raj, because in my current work, and I know you want to wait to get there and talk about that, but often I am contacted by parents who are hit with, oh my goodness, this is a completely different journey than I thought it would be. My child has special needs, and many times it is on the spectrum. And so I find that I use my initial instruction in special education often to help them cope.
I love it. So let's talk about this experience in your life, because I know it's going to lead into this question. What really motivated you to be one of the leading experts in what you do now, parental mental health, and how did that become your life mission? So what's that story that you're referring to in your bio?
Well, it certainly wasn't a goal to be a leading anybody. I really just wanted to figure out what the heck had hit me and my family. There wasn't any information back in the 1980s. There was nothing but criticism and judgment. I was surrounded by it. And, there was no internet then. It's not like you could Google, what are these, what could this possibly be? So I saw a television program one day, and the woman on the program was talking about feelings that I had had at that point on and off for years, because I was hit very, very hard with postpartum OCD and all kinds of panic and depression. So I had it after both of my children. We're very high risk once we have it once to have it again, unless you have a really good strategy in place. So I'm all about prevention. But at that time, I still hadn't had any idea what had happened. So I felt at that moment both anger at the medical profession and mental health profession. If this is so common, we're talking 1 in 7 women go through
wow.
something more severe than the normal baby blues. I mean, this is more common than gestational diabetes. This is considered the most common complication of childbearing.
Wow.
So why was there such ignorance out there? So I was angry, but I was also so relieved that this might actually have a name. So I started, still very, very depressed. I started to research everything I could get my hands on from all over the world, whatever had been translated into English anyway. And I realized that other countries were light years ahead of us. So that's really what launched me. I posted 2 flyers, one at the pediatrician's office and one at a local market. I think it was a Safeway, and just word of mouth. Remember, there was only word of mouth at that time.
Right.
I started running the first postpartum support group in the country out of my living room in Northern California. And every week, between 5 and 15 women would show up. Often they would come with their adult support people. And again, I was trying to recover myself, but there wasn't any other help for me at the time. I was regarded as the expert, still suffering, but suddenly hospitals were contacting, can you train my staff? Actually, that came a little later. When I first offered to train people, what I heard was, we don't have this problem here, Shoshana. Thank you anyway. But after a couple of years, I was contacted by those very same clinics and hospitals going, I remember you offered to train the staff. Can you please come and train? So I was launched simply because there wasn't anybody doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, Jane Honickman was in Southern California. She had just started Postpartum Support International. I was founding my organization, but there were no more than maybe 4 of us in the country at that time.
Wow. And people forget. I mean, I don't forget that. I like what you said. If you want to get something out there now, do an Instagram story and do a video on TikTok. But in the 80s, it wasn't like that. If you want to get the message out there, it was hard work.
That's right.
You were doing meetings after meetings and making your voice over and over again.
That's right. That's right. And I was not a clinical therapist. I was a special education teacher. So women were coming to me and saying, can we go deeper, please? I want to talk about my own growing up. And my experience, and I couldn't practice therapy without a license. That would be a very unethical thing.
Right.
That's really what prompted me to go back to school eventually. So I could help them go deeper, because what I was giving them was valuable. It was therapeutic, but it was psychoeducation. We really couldn't move any further than that.
And let me just say this, I'm sure you've encountered parents that, on top of what we're going to be talking about, their son or daughter has autism,
Yes.
and, that should be a whole separate podcast of what mom and dad have to go through in accepting this and trying to be a good parent, and of course, talking about the kids. So I think everything happens for a reason, Dr. Shosh. And I think that you have 2 great things in your back pocket that many health professionals don't have: being able to deal with special needs kids and helping mom and dad. So I'm impressed.
Well, it's so, I can't think of a more satisfying career. I mean, just to know that what I'm doing is helping other families not suffer. I mean, when I can help launch a mom or a dad, a couple into a happy situation, into their new parenting life, whether they have a special needs child or not, that gives me just joy, absolute joy. And at that time, I tried to find doctors who would treat. Some of my clients needed medication, clearly.
Yeah. Sure.
So I would call the offices. I couldn't email anybody. There wasn't any email. I would cold call out of this huge, I'm dating myself big time here, out of this huge phone book. I would go to the yellow pages and go through doctor after doctor and say, who do I have a good feeling about here? And then I would send articles and everything through snail mail. I mean, it was tedious then, but I was very motivated.
and I'm just kind of adding on the imagery right here with the rotary phone.
Of course. And at that point, I didn't have any good boundaries, of course. And so my phone was ringing for, women were calling from literally all over the world.
Yeah. Oh my
in the middle of the night. I
Yeah.
thought, oh, eventually I got another number on that. So when I answered that rotary phone, it wasn't in the middle of the night.
All right, so I want to start talking about some stuff. So
Yeah.
I really want to talk about the first two really common terms. If you could help differentiate them and define them.
Sure.
One hand is baby blues, the other hand is postpartum depression. Can you please define both, and how do you distinguish them?
Yes. And I will start by saying there are 6 perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. Perinatal covers the period of pregnancy through about a year postpartum.
Okay.
And so whatever can happen postpartum can also happen during pregnancy. So that's why I wanted to say that first. We're concentrating on postpartum depression, which is the most common of the 6 disorders. That's why we focus on it. Baby blues is not considered a disorder. It's part of normal adjustment. It doesn't feel good, but there are the 2 basic ways to tell the difference between the normal baby blues and what's over the line into the disorder of postpartum depression is the severity of the symptoms. Baby blues symptoms are mild. The mild ups and downs, the teariness, the feelings of dependence, the mild worries, but the woman doesn't lose her perspective. She knows this is temporary. Generally speaking, she feels like herself. So she doesn't feel like she's lost herself. So that's one way, the severity of the symptoms. The other way is the duration of the symptoms. If the baby blues is still going past 2 weeks following delivery, we now call it postpartum depression. It might be a mild postpartum depression, but it still she should still receive some intervention.
Now, you kind of started out by saying there's like these 6 perinatal mood anxiety disorders. We listed 2 of them already, but just to close loop, what are the other ones and you mentioned during your opening something about OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Can you just kind of close loop and finish off the other disorders?
Sure. Yeah. So postpartum depression, postpartum OCD, postpartum panic. There's certainly postpartum psychosis. That's the one that is the dangerous one, really, regarding safety for children, et cetera. Okay. And postpartum post-traumatic stress disorder.
Oh.
And the last one, if I'm counting correctly, postpartum bipolar disorder. We are at our most vulnerable during the perinatal period. So if one of these things is going to surface, it surfaces then.
What are some of the signs and symptoms? Now, I want to be not as a clinician or healthcare provider. I'm just going to be dad. So let's talk to the parents out there. So what are some signs and symptoms to watch and listen for during and after? Can you comment about like how long will they last? When do they start? And all that kind of stuff and severity?
Sure. During pregnancy, unless there's some other physical reason why she's lost her appetite should increase. Her self-esteem should remain fine and normal. She should be able to sleep at night. I know towards the end of pregnancy, but generally speaking, other than, a little bit of heartburn or, discomfort with size, she should be able to sleep well. So that's all normal. If her self-esteem starts to drop, if she's saying, I'm not going to be a good mother, or anybody can do this better than I can. I just got myself into trouble here. I shouldn't have done that. Those kinds of put downs, watch for that. If she has insomnia, if it's not a physical reason, but if her mind is spinning and she really can't go to sleep, she can't sleep, that is serious. She needs help. So I'm not being alarmist here. It's just that don't ignore that and assume just because she's pregnant, she's going to have a hard time sleeping. No, insomnia is a serious problem. I know you're a sleep person, Dr. I, so I don't have to convince you, but that needs some intervention. Her moods generally are fine. She might have some ups and downs, but again, very, very mild. And the same postpartum. If the symptoms are severe enough to get in the way of her daily functioning or her ability to sleep at night, that's over the line. So you're listening postpartum for a mom who's saying things like, when you pick up the baby, honey, baby stops crying, but I can't do it. Or the baby's rejecting my milk. Or that's not a normal statement for a new mom to make. If she's very angry, sometimes postpartum depression, if anybody has a stereotyped picture of what postpartum depression looks like, throw it out, because often it's more anxiety than sadness. She can't relax. She can't just calm down. She can be very agitated and obsessive. And sometimes she's angry. She's short-tempered. So she's snapping at her toddler and she's yelling at her husband when she knows he doesn't deserve it. And then she feels guilty about it. So it can manifest in different ways. Certainly sleep deprivation can cause these things as well.
Let me throw you a curveball because
Sure.
you said to do that. So, this just sounds more and more important. And I love your analogy in the beginning, comparing it to, diabetes. And, of course, it's so important to screen for it and treat it. But I didn't realize how common what we're talking about is.
Yes.
So with that being said, do doctors, healthcare providers, midwives, whoever, do they screen for it during the perinatal period to help recognize it? Or are we not doing a good job at that?
If they're smart and they're using the gold standard, yes, they are. And I don't mean smart intellectually. We know there's smart people out there.
Yep.
But truly, if they want to provide the best care to their patients and their clients, they will absolutely be screening. And one doesn't even need a formal screening tool. I mean, in one of my books, the first book, Beyond the Blues, there's informal screening questions that you can ask. It also talks about what answers you're looking for, But yes, screening is very important. If you're going to screen, though, make sure you pay attention to what she said. Because if she's going to be honest with you, she is really making herself vulnerable. And remember, screening isn't for diagnosis. It's a screening. I mean, you want to find out even if she's fine, but she wants to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
But the answer, that was a long-winded answer. The answer is absolutely yes. More screening needs to be done. And then follow-up, of course, with that screening also needs to happen.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just
speaking into the void?
But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Oh, Hilton stay, your beds are soft and cozy. No lumpy couch, no stiff futon, no shower line at crack of dawn. Oh, Hilton stay, a holiday you're saving.
When you want holiday comfort you can count on, it matters where you stay. This season, enjoy spacious, comfortable rooms and friendly service when you book with Hilton instead. Hilton for the stay.
So, I want to make sure in my opening statement I said this is going to be information for moms and dads. So this kind of leads me to this question.
Yes.
Can postpartum depression occur in men, in dads?
Yes, it can. Not due to the reproductive hormones shifting, which is the main etiology for the birth moms.
Okay.
But yes, if the dads, and I'm using dad on purpose, and you did too, actually, and I'm glad, because that's where the research is. The research is on fathers. Just a side note, I work with grandparents, all kinds of caretakers who are raising babies. And I'm seeing an interesting, very similar rate as with the fathers. So, which is about 10%, by the way. For fathers, it's about 1 in 10. But if the mom is depressed, his likelihood jumps from 24 to 50%, somewhere in there.
Wow.
So his biggest risk factor is if she is depressed. But if he has his own history of depression or anxiety or OCD or bipolar disorder, I mean, what's the biggest stress that a parent or a new parent can go through, right?
Right.
It's bringing a baby home. Right. So if there's a vulnerability there, also sleep deprivation, as we started to talk about, that is one of the most under looked at factor that feeds right in. It can cause depression. So yes, dads, absolutely. Sometimes I'm contacted by moms saying, I'm really doing fine, Dr. Shosh, but I'm really worried about my boyfriend. The other thing is that if he doesn't get good help as she's recovering, he can plummet. as she starts to get well, because often what the father's doing is holding everything together, taking care of her, taking care of baby, picking up the slack of whatever isn't being done at home. He's working, so he is her pillar. And I am a strong believer. When I work with moms, I say a good 90% of my clientele are mothers.
Yep.
I always, unless there's a good reason not to, I will bring in the spouse, the significant other, to make sure he is getting the support that he needs. Because if he's not, it's not going to be good for my client.
And now you got me all fired up because I wasn't going to throw my 2 cents in, but you're right. Being the sleep doctor, I just want my hat go out to all the women out there during that perinatal period. It's important to see a sleep doctor if you're not sleeping well, because obstructive sleep apnea is higher during that time period. Restless leg syndrome is higher during that time period because of iron deficiency anemia, the insomnia, behavioral insomnia, the kids are crying, the stress. And it's just a setup. And, depression and anxiety is just and sleep are like chicken and the eggs, If you don't treat one, the other's going to get worse and vice versa. And
that's right.
Especially during that time with breastfeeding and being pregnant, there's really no good medical therapy. So it's tough.
Absolutely. Yeah. That is the first area of the Dr. Shosh wellness plan that I have. That's what I call it. There are 7 steps to the Dr. Shosh wellness plan. Well, guess what's first on the list?
Is it sleep? It sleep?
Is.
Wow. That's why we're buds, man.
Because we are definitely on the same page. Sleep can make the difference between depression and no depression.
Yeah.
That's how important it is.
Yep.
And right. I mean, chronic sleep deprivation, as we know, lowers serotonin. These depressions are very serotonin dependent. So yes, it seems to be with the new moms, the magic number for them just to make sure they can maintain at least a basic amount of serotonin in their brain. It's 5 hours uninterrupted, not 2 hours here and 3 hours there, but 5 hours straight. Obviously, when you're working on breastfeeding and just trying to establish that,
I know,
that's impossible. But my clients, especially if they've had postpartum depression before, they are on board getting those at a minimum 5 hours uninterrupted at night. Daytime sleep, as we know, does not replace the brain restorative sleep at night. So, I help them in my single moms. I make sure that, help them brainstorm who can come and take over and do those bottles of pumped her or formula, right? So that she can protect her brain chemistry.
Aw. No, I love it. I love that we share that passion. But I want to ask this one too. So this is going to be one where, so let's say the diagnosis is made, and I think that's the best first step is having the right diagnosis. So what should loved ones say or do or not say or do when a person's recovering from a postpartum depression or anxiety? Can you give me some tips there?
This is supposed to be the happiest time in your life. What do you have to be depressed about? Okay, that would be the first number one no.
Oh my God.
Another one is, that's still happening. Yeah. I mean, she's already feeling ashamed unless she's gotten good information, right? Yeah. So that is a big shame. I was surrounded by that. Absolutely. That's what I heard. What is your problem? It's not all about you. By the way, my mother-in-law was a postpartum nurse for 35 years when we delivered our first child. And that's what I heard from her.
You're kidding me.
Not her. And she popped out 5 kids of her own, of course, without as much even as the baby blues. So she had zero compassion. She just thought I was spoiled. And when I was like on the floor, unable to function. So anyway, moving ahead.
Taking it in while you're talking, it's like it's the instinct for men to just say that, like, "Hey, are you sad?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that people don't realize that could really sting someone who's going through there. So well said.
Yes, a lot of shame there.
God.
Another thing you don't want to say to an anxious, remember, postpartum depression could look more like anxiety. So do not tell her to just relax.
It's like you stabbed me with little...
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to do that.
I could almost see someone, even myself, accidentally saying something like that. Okay, don't relax. Oh my God.
Right. But again, I'm not saying the men are bad, right? Or bad husbands or stupid. I'm not saying any of that. Right. You asked me what you don't want to say.
Keep on going. These are good ones.
No. So listen, I want your listeners and yourself apparently
Yeah.
not to feel badly if you said any of these things.
Yeah.
You're just learning. Look, we can only do as much as we know.
Yeah.
And now you know more, which is great.
Totally.
Right?
Yes, no, 100%.
Okay. So the kinds of things you do want to say is, honey, baby's doing fine. But I'm concerned about you. You deserve to be happy. Let's find some good help for you, because I know this can happen to the best of mothers, the smartest, the most loving. Let's get you some real help so that you can enjoy.
I love it.
Yeah. The other thing that to give to women who you might think are going through it is to say we will get through this together, because depression is in general, we tend to feel very isolated and alone. Even if we're surrounded by people who care, it's a very isolating experience. So when a husband or a close loved one can say, we will get through this, there's that can make such a positive difference in her healing.
And you know what? I'm going to actually surprise you again, because I'm all about surprises on the show. Sure. I actually, told my listeners, I sent them a little message and said, hey, we're going to have a pro coming on talking about these very important topics. And I have questions from my fans. Can I?
Okay.
Can I give them to you?
Of course you can.
All right. I know I'm catching you off guard, but I thought I never realized, I shouldn't say that. I have the best listeners, but they have awesome questions. So here's this one. I think this person had either postpartum depression or anxiety in the past. So the question is, will I get postpartum depression or psychosis again? So is there a chance they can get it again if it happens once?
Okay. So I'll give you the bad news and I'll give you the great news.
Okay.
The reality is, once you have had a postpartum mood or anxiety disorder, and you mentioned at least a couple in there, you are very high risk, about an 80% risk to have it again. However, if you have a solid strategy, you can help to sometimes prevent it entirely, at least minimize the severity. So again, I'm all about prevention. So, when I'm contacted by somebody who has had a postpartum depression or anxiety, OCD, bipolar, whatever before, I'll say, okay, let's get this together. We'll talk about a sleep plan. We'll talk about nutrition. We'll talk about breathing exercises. We get a very workable, not overwhelming, individualized strategy so that, again, we could at least minimize it and often avoid it entirely.
I love that. I love the great part of that answer at the end. All right. So this is a real practical one. So my listener wants to know, can I get extra time off of work if I'm still trying to recover from postpartum depression when my maternity leave ends? Can you answer that one?
Oh my goodness. Okay, let me try to put this in a nutshell. It's a great question. I love your listeners too, by the way, just from their questions. Often you can. It can be considered a medical necessity. Sometimes you need a mental health professional to back up what the MD is saying to the insurance. It depends on your insurance also. It depends on your state, literally where you are in the world, geographically, and the kinds of laws and all of that. But yes, the short answer is most often, yes, you can with the proper medical and mental health backup.
Oh, that's good. Good positive answer. I like this one too. This is good. Can you breastfeed during postpartum depression? Should you? Do I need to quit? Sounds like a personal question.
I would first find out if you want to be breastfeeding or you feel pressured to breastfeed. Sometimes there's an expectation that that's the only way you can be a good mother. So this is sort of a side comment, but I would want to find out what your feelings are about breastfeeding. If you're asking if depression can cross through to the baby through the milk, the answer is absolutely not. The nutrition does not change whatsoever. And also, if you're asking if one can be on a medication such as an antidepressant while you're breastfeeding, Again, I don't give medical advice. I'm a PhD, not an MD, but I write books on this stuff. I lecture. I've got to know. I've got to know. I have yet to hear of somebody needing to wean off their antidepressant because they're breastfeeding. So the answer is you don't have to. It's not necessarily going to help you recover faster. That's another myth.
Okay.
And also when you do wean off eventually, since you are high risk, you want to do that, wean your body very, very slowly. So, because often it can exacerbate depression if you wean too quickly. I'm giving you probably more information than you were asking, but it was a wonderful questions you're asking. Thank you.
No way. That was one of my favorite answers from you, because it's funny, you said, because I'm a doctor, I immediately interpret that question as if you're on a select serotonin reuptake inhibitor or a drug, and you threw that 2 cents in like, hey, Raj, maybe the patient was just thinking, can depression go through the breast milk? I didn't even think about that. And this is great. That was a wonderful answer. I think I'm going to stump you on this one. This is a good one. Can you get postpartum depression or anxiety after adopting a baby or child or after a miscarriage? So it's a multiple part answer or question.
And guess what? You did not stump me.
Are you sure?
I am. Okay, let's do the miscarriage one first. All the body knows is that the pregnancy ended. So whether it ends in a live birth or whether it was ended on purpose or it ended in miscarriage, the chemistry can do the same thing in the brain, in the endocrine system. So the answer is yes. And often therapists, when I'm speaking to therapists, I'll say, you pay attention to, we go directly into miscarriage. Oh, she must be grieving. Okay. And they go right to the grief stuff. Take a look at the biochemistry. Yeah. Don't miss, right? She might not be grieving. Yeah. Sometimes maybe it wasn't a miscarriage. Sometimes when it isn't, she ends it on purpose, right? There's a termination.
Yeah.
She had to medically or whatever. And it's a biochemical thing, not so much an emotional thing. So, okay. So that's one. So the answer is yes for that. Certainly. The other, you asked about adoption.
Exactly.
Yes. Adoptive parents can, again, not due to the reproductive hormones, like it wouldn't be for dads, but sleep deprivation. There it is again. Yeah. Also, these folks sometimes can be launched into parenthood literally overnight or within 2 days.
Yeah.
Right. There are huge factors that go into their stress. Sometimes they're also taking hormones to help them lactate, but yes, caretakers in general, they are at about the same rate. The adoptive parents are about the same rate, about 10% as dads. The last statistic I saw, an adoptive mom is about a 10%. And again, does it depend on her personal history and even family history of depression? Yes, she's vulnerable if there's a history there.
So I want to be nosy. I know you do private practice. So do you actually have parents who just adopted a child or had a miscarriage or something similar to that and are treating the, wow.
Oh, yes. And they think they're going crazy. I mean, they think, oh my goodness, we put all our life savings into bringing this child into our life. What the heck is wrong? Oh, also folks who have, who've had fertility issues. Speaking of putting all your life savings, they're very high risk.
Oh man. We're going to take a medical turn here. Do I need to take medication to be treated for postpartum depression or anxiety?
No, that's a great question. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily. Sometimes just with a solid strategy, a very practical plan of sleep, exercise, nutrition, emotional support, physical support, so you can recharge, right? Somebody you can lean on, somebody you can talk to, somebody to get you okay. Some good therapy. Often medication isn't needed. I'm telling you, the best doctors who I've worked with over the decades that I've been doing this work, they will say to their patients, I'm willing to prescribe you an antidepressant. Here's the prescription. You don't even necessarily have to take it. First, get a complete assessment. by Dr. Shosh, or somebody I've trained many, many people over the years. And you maybe just with the strategy of wellness, you won't even need the antidepressant. If you do, thank goodness they're there. So I certainly have no bias against antidepressants. When it's needed, they're godsends. But I can tell you that about 75% of my clientele do not need them.
And you know what? And my wife, who's actually a doctor, she's a rheumatologist, one of her many amazing phrases I just kind of borrow and copy is that she truly feels that for most patients that people don't want to be on lifelong meds, know, and it's our job, as doctors to try to limit, if not necessary, to start medication. So I'm glad we're on the...
No, that's terrific. Now, you said lifelong. I want your listeners to know that these are acute illnesses, not chronic. So they, and they are 100% treatable. Of course, if somebody has had depression all their life and then they have a baby, it's not that the depression is suddenly magically going to disappear, but the bout of postpartum depression will go away. So for all of those who have never been on medication before, but they need it to recover from this acute illness, the thought is completely that they will not need to take it forever. It's not like on a medication, always on that medication. No, it helps you get through just what you need to get through with the acute illness, and then you wean off at the proper time.
It's positive. So I have a couple of closing questions. So I want to talk about you and some goals for your future, but I just wanted to comment. I do love the titles of many of your books and things that you do. I love Dark Side of the Full Moon, a little Pink Floyd there. And I love Pregnant on Prozac. You just have nice titles for everything, So well chosen. So tell me, what are your goals for the future? What are you focusing on? You've done so much already. What's the next step?
I can't wait to get back to radio myself. I have been out of production for a few years, so you'll be a guest on my show one day soon. If you grace me with that would be wonderful. I do have another book in mind, but what I'm doing more than anything now, other than training, I do a lot of training of doulas, midwives, and other newborn care professionals. So I'm creating courses for folks that they can go through at their own time, just from my website. Yeah, so creating the online courses. I'm writing notes on my next book, and getting that podcast started.
This kind of leads into my last question, because I'm sure there's not enough time in the world to answer all these amazing questions. So someone's going to want to ask you more questions or learn more about you, or it's going through this and getting some great advice from you. So how does one learn more about you? Where can they go?
Oh, thank you. drshosh.com, drshOSH.com. They can see a new parent quiz. They can they can see a number of resources right there on the site. There's a book I put together, very short book of stories of 100% recovery. So if anybody is suffering out there, or they know somebody who is, it's a very uplifting, right? Women are telling their stories. These are mostly clients of mine. So anyway, there's many resources on drshosh.com.
Well, Dr. Shosh, I'm going to say that, your positive attitude, your enthusiasm screams through this podcast. When I first met you, you were always just excited and uplifting, and just makes me feel happy I do what I do. So thank you for being on the podcast today.
Oh, this was really my pleasure. Thank you, Dr. Raj.
All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this. I know I learned quite a bit. And hey, stay tuned for our next episode coming in a couple weeks. And everyone, take care, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening. This has been a production of Ars Longa Media. Our producers are Madison Linden and Chris Brightigan. Our executive producer is Dr. Patrick Beeman. This podcast is for educational purposes only and not intended for medical advice. Ars Longa, Vita Brevis.